Once upon a time, there was a village of people, people with skin the color of a blackboard, hair like copper electrical wires, strong hands, and a language as old as life itself. They were called the Boo. They were an ancient people with roots firm and strong. Now there came a time when they were visited by a nomadic group, a group with skin as white as chalk, hair like fire, and eyes like ice. They were called the Muns. Not long after meeting, the nomadic group, tired of forever traveling from place to place, decided they would take the cozy village for themselves and through the people from their homeland. They were forced to now live the life of the nomads, no place to call home, always moving and squatting and moving again. They found themselves in the forest not long after, and losing all their desires, strength, and motivation, they decided to make its scary shadows their new home. Among them was a princess who had been very young when they left their home, and so grew up hearing stories about the Chalk people and how fine their life was now in their old home. She dreamed every night while laying on the cold forest floor, huddled with her people for warmth, that she would someday be like one of these lofty, bigger-than-life people. And yet her dream was never realized. The craftsmen among them made toys and dolls to keep the children busy playing so they did not grow too depressed by their daily lives. The young princess would throw away the dolls that looked like her with her black skin and wiry hair. Instead, she made them create dolls that looked like the Muns, using her imagination so that she could live their carefree lives and imagine sleeping in their cozy beds, not the cold forest floor. It was late during one night, while she imagined how great her life would be as a Mun's princess, with long flowing hair, that a lion came to her and whispered, "Why are you here in these cold, dark forests, child? I know your people are ancient ones. How have you fallen into such a sad state?" She whispered the story she had been told time and time again about their downfall. "Ah, and so would you like that I lead you out of these forests and back to your village?" he asked. She looked delighted. "I would love that. We all would. But we are not as strong or plentiful as the Muns, and would never be able to force our way back in. But what if I tell you that you would not have to lift a finger to remove them? What if I tell you that I am no long ordinary lion, but I am in fact magical? Only you may see me. If I help you lead your people back home, as you step out of the forest, you will all turn into Muns. Your outward appearance would change, and you would enter your city with no problem at all." The girl could not believe her ears. To be a noble Muns and finally return to her homeland, this would be an absolute dream come true. "Yes, I want this. I don't know how my people will react to becoming Muns, so I will not tell them this little bit, but I will lead them back to my home." With the light of the new day, the girl told her people that she had had a vision and would lead them back to their home, and they would be given the power to return with ease. The Boo were happy to have something to believe in, and so they followed her lead. They took only what they needed. The princess was sure to bring her favorite Mun's doll and wrapped her in her pocket. As they walked, the lion whispered to her, "We will cross 3 major obstacles before we reach the end of the forest, so prepare yourself." They soon came across the first of these 3 obstacles. It was a very large desert of blazing heat, light, and white sand. The Boo quickly saw how dangerous these conditions were. They held on to one another, hand in hand, as they walked through the tornadoes of sand. They could see each other because of the dark color of their skin, and their strong hands held them tightly to one another as they stayed linked. The blazing light bounced off of their skin and did not toast them like it did the other small animals around them. They continued walking and finally made it through the desert successfully. And not long after, they came across the second obstacle. It was a large, raging river they had to cross. The lion whispered to the girl. She looked confused but told her people what he had ordered. "Cut your hair and braid it tightly together to form a raft." The people all did as she said without question. Their wiry hair, which looked so much like copper, made a beautiful raft. They stood upon it and thought it would float in the water. Instead, some odd property in their hair, when in contact with the water, pushed the raft into the air and it levitated across the water. They used their hands as propellers against the wind to steer and made their way to the other side safely. They cheered in amazement. Their final obstacle came a day after. It was a cave covered in ancient symbols, pictures, and words. The cave opening was covered by a boulder, and passing through the cave was their only way through the mountain. The lion whispered to the girl, and she looked over to a group of her elders. "The cave drawings were made by our elders. Only our ancient tongue can open it somehow. Perhaps one of our old sayings. The elders looked among each other and whispered and finally uttered the words together. The great artist draws with all pigments to help all to decipher the greatest of riddles. The cave door opened easily and they walked through. Not long after passing the mountain, a bit more of the forest, the Boos saw the edge of the forest come into view. They stopped in both fear and excitement. They all looked to their princess, wondering what magic would help them enter their old home without being attacked by the Muns. The girl, too, was anxious, wondering how her people would react once they passed the threshold and found their black skin turn white, their copper hair turn red, and their hands grow weak. She stopped walking altogether when she thought about this transformation. She looked at her people, truly looked at them, and realized they could not have made it through the 3 obstacles if they had not been anything other than what and who they were. They were a unique and beautiful people like so many others. How could she kill her people? That is in fact what she would be leading them to, their deaths. To live in their old homeland, but to look and speak like the conquerors. As her people began to move forward with growing smiles, she screamed, "Stop!" They looked at her in fear. "I did not tell you everything." She explained what would happen if they left the forest. They looked at her in horror, while a few looked as if it weren't that bad an idea. I realized how dumb I was to hate us so much. I would have us change. We are amazing. We are beautiful. We are us. We were the victims in this story. How dare I make us the victimizers? I truly am sorry, and I hope you will forgive me. Tears rolled down her face, and she pulled her Mun's doll from her pocket. It was a doll she had revered. She dropped it to the floor, then looked towards the lion and asked, "If we return to our village as we are, in our natural form, will they accept us peacefully?" The lion shook his head. "No, not yet." The princess sighed and said loudly, "Let us remain in the forest, as that is the only way to remain who we are. Do you all agree?" She looked at the beautiful people, at her beautiful people, through tear-soaked eyes. They looked back in silence, then stared at the edge of the forest. Then one by one, they turned back.